So, like, Indian Self-Determination and Education Assistance Act was made before ARFA, right? American Indian Religious Freedom Act. And then on top of that, you already got conflicting ideas in governing policy as well as, environmental kind of stuff going on. What I guess what it is I'm trying to say is really, are they just trying to push what it is that is at that point onto us? Because, like, obviously it should make sense, but for me, the one thing that I find to be the key in understanding about that is, the fact that they want us to acknowledge this, supposed good thing, but it's like, it all revolves around fucking making buildings and fucking using all these resources and all these ways of living, and it's like, all the way up to a point, fucking, do they even understand how the introduction of those kinds of resources under certain leadership could, like, grab hold of a tribe if they've become under the influence of a certain leadership? Like, did they even think about that at the time? Because that's what all I hear from way back in the day, certain tribes that I know of. It's always someone who was greedy and wanted an instant fix. For me, like I said, I'll keep saying, anything that has the word Indian on it that you recognize, that even says something that it's there for you and it's supposed to help you, could be invalid because you yourself claim sovereignty under wardship if you have to deal with this shit. So what it's just like those policies that existed once before, like the blood quantum system. It's like, once there are no full bloods, it's like you accept it, whether or not you like it, even at, certain tribes. It's hard to find any tribe that had the option of accepting it. It's like, if you accept something, that we say about you, and you believe it, that is crazy, Like, that's truly incredibly, corrupting to your image, especially if the people that you're trying to recognize this term with are even actively doing something against you. So, like, I'm not even gonna get too far into this. I kind of briefly read over everything. It's hard because it's all about contracting services and how the secretary can't just wave away certain things about contracting services and self-federal Indian policy and doing this and that. But that's great, but fucking, why do we get this stuff? Where does it come from? Why do we have to live by it? Why do we have to force to know it? Like, forced to fucking even know that shit? Why? And these were like voices that, would have been long forgotten. The Self-Determination Act, Education Assistance Act would have happened in, I believe, 1975. How many people's voices then were completely fucking ignored? Who could even say they are the emperor of all fucking Indian people at that point? There were people fighting. And they had to fight because they didn't just choose to, like, go out there and just start being a certain way. No, it's because there was, something that forced them to be in that position to fight back. I just see it as we're getting sold shit. And it's an easy way for the people at the time to have a convenient excuse to even have their resources, the same ones that we'd be using to build shit with, to like sell to others because they made it seem like a good thing. And because it's written in such a way, it looks just neat. I can already tell you, this would have interfered with someone's life. This would have destroyed their chances of having a happy life with what they had. And evidently, the blame is being put up in the air, besides of which, through this type of, acknowledgement of, using resources that fucking somehow come out of nowhere. It's not good. Even though this is supposed to be a good thing. I mean, I know I could be a total downer, but really? There are, how many answers are there on there to even understand why it is the American government should be doing that? Besides just knowing that the American government at one point in time just wasn't doing anything. What is there that acknowledges that they should be doing anything? Because then, they stated like, oh, it was a bad thing. American government was just like even denying people. It's like, I'm used to white supremacists trying to get away with shit like that. They'd be like, yeah, we enslaved your people, we raped them. Oh boy, we had all this fun. We had all kinds of good shit. And we had all kinds of fucking amazing shit that happened with that. Like, mistresses and land and resources and all kinds of shit. We just had a ball with it, And then to say out of nowhere that they have to understand that, like they understand that we want our own ability to be in a certain way is interesting to me. Because then, there are plenty of things I could even bring up around the same time that were probably actively happening. Where it was like, rivers were being annexed and all kinds of shit. But it's just resources. It's pushing resources. Because then they, what the hell they try to say to us? Fuck. The generation that would have been around at that point in time, man, they would have been like young, probably even kind of mildly older adults. But they would have been coming out of boarding schools. Their parents would have been in boarding schools. And they're already like forced to assimilate with it. Alright? And it's like something I even told my grandfather, it's like this idea that's like, oh yeah, no, you can keep your trees, but only under one condition. And it's not like, you even have a say-so. It's like you're just being forced, like, okay, well, what is it that I have to give away then? And they'll say, you can keep the tree, but we want the roots and the leaves of it in a sack. But you can keep the tree. And that's all we want. That's all we need even. Because what the hell is this? Like, I don't want shit that's at the expense of people I don't know yet. Like, what if these people are even calling themselves white, just want to be, peaceful? What if they just want to learn to live off the land? What if they want to find out something that, was being forced away from them? What if they wanted that? Why should we have to, encourage the worst against that? By accepting something that forces them into a train of thought that makes them think that they have to give something away. No, I don't see it as something that quote-unquote white people were doing. I kind of see it was only a group of people who could have thought of it in this way. And the sad thing is, it's supposed to be over something that's, like, supposed to be good. Indian Self-Determination Education Assistance Act. That's literally the name of it. But there's no reason why it should be there. What do they understand to make it seem like it's all peaceful and good going? Because then it's all about assisting us and giving us resources. Where do those resources come from? Well, that's not in there. They don't tell us how it's being get. God fucking... They're just saying, oh, we'll give you them. Sure, it's at the expense of my brother, so what does that mean? Oh, well, the only thing I could think of when it comes to sociology is sacrifice. Maybe these people thought to self-sacrifice themselves for a long run, for a long haul. It's the only thing I could think of. They thought to make it seem like they cared about us by even enabling the same things they wanted. Because maybe there was a lot of even pressure looking in, which I don't doubt. But even that's shameless. But to think they could have really thrown themselves at us at the time. Those people specifically, not all American, not all white people, anyone who was even around. It's just those specific people. To think that they could have even thrown themselves at us and kept it a secret amongst themselves. Just like how they understand with these words that they use, Indian and the N-word, that maybe it could be for a long run. That they can make themselves appear as though they are the victim this time. Because there's so much that they even parade around saying that they're proud of, like killing or kicking their heads off of children that they took away from their parents, killing them like animals, Because other than that, this whole thing would be void to me because of the term Indian, especially given that it's Indian self-determination. So are they trying to make it seem like because we acknowledge that it's something about self-determination, like, being self-determining, and using the term Indian, that it just already conflicts with us, already conflicts with the ideas that we want, that we, even have based out of necessity? So that's what I see. So obviously, do we live in a world where things are perfect? Do we live in a place where we can honestly say that things are okay? Like with how we live, what consumerism is, or economics has become? Can we say that? Or are there things like willingness to accept and all these other fancy terms for just not caring at a certain point what it is that we do to others or the environment with what it is that we have now? So I think the one place you're going to find where a lot of it's coming from is, you guessed it, indigenous nations and their land. How I used to live next to what they called themselves Navajo Nation. They were places where you couldn't even go towards those open caves because it's all uranium mining. And all that stuff around there was just terrible because they mined the hell out of it. And I guess the quote-unquote Navajos, right? Because I don't know why they want to still call themselves that to this day. Or like growing up with birth defects and shit. Being exposed to that shit. And that's not even the only place either. There's plenty of places. But that's like one of the worst places I've ever been around. I even had to live around. Where that's like the grim reality of what was. And look at the expense of what that is. Can you imagine all the unaccounted expenses towards people who have to give us those resources? Like, I'm not having it. I want to know where these resources come from. I want to know who's involved. Because where I come from, there's respect towards people. You don't just see something out of them that you want. You make them into a leader so you can help, better, make things better for everyone. Because then they know how to take care of themselves as well as others. So I don't see anything good about a lot of what's happening right now. The only thing is, I haven't sold out. I hear there's plenty of communists that are trying to get a hold of everything too from way back in the day. And it seems like it's all made up nonsense, right? Communism, scary. No, they really were trying to infiltrate this country, and a lot through the oppressed minority, quote unquote. I can only imagine how deeply rooted, things like that are. Considering those people at that time really didn't care for even future generations. So now you got a bunch of morons who are completely unaware of any of that shit. Who are living off of it, breathing it, fucking breeding on it. Without caring. All I know is this needs to be re-examined on what resources are being utilized, why is it about these specific things, and why isn't anything put, accounted for. Like, a plaque would be nice, something that commemorates the fact that there were people at that time who not only had to endure the horrors of the time, right, but, were the reason why things are like this. Why isn't there any of that? Directly from the U.S. government. Because I see it. I really do.